Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. We are on the 4th installment of the Turbo Mail Call series. And pretty much this is going to be the last because there's a few things that I've already opened over there. But on the table here, we have 5 things that I haven't opened. That's it. Then I will be through all of the stuff that is still in boxes. Of course, I mentioned this in the last video, the last couple videos, or maybe all 3 of the videos. There's some mail call episodes that never made it into videos on the channel. I have footage from opening all that stuff, and I've started the process to go recover that footage. I don't have to recover it, but it's buried in folders filled with all sorts of video files and stuff, and I have to cross-reference the video files against what's in my spreadsheet to see if it made it into a video or not, and I've already started that process. And what I'm going to be doing is grabbing that footage, editing that together into something so I can see exactly what I still need to do with that footage, because usually I record something on the bench over here to my right that was opening the packages, and then I would move the camera and put it over there on the put the camera over there on the bench, and I would record the on the bench segment. And it was a whole lot of work because there was a lot of video pieces, and it was difficult to make, which is why I changed to the super mini mail calls, which was sort of the I'm going to take one package, open it, and show what's in there on the bench. Anyways, long story short, I still have all this footage that I need to turn into mail call videos. I think I counted up the number of items. I forgot off the top of my head. I'll insert that here, but there's something like 20 things or so that haven't ever made it into videos. Some of them date back, I think, to 2020 or 2021, but the footage is still there, and I still have all the items, because when stuff was in the queue for turning to a mail call, I don't give it away or get rid of the thing until it's actually shown on the video. So, long story short, if you sent something in back then and you never saw it on the channel, hopefully that will be remedied soon. So, anyhow, back to what we're dealing with today. These 5 packages, there was 3 big ones here, and then these 2 small ones just came in the other day. I will have, well, I don't even know if I'm going to have occasional mail call episodes in the future. Maybe I will, just sort of, I'll let stuff accumulate for a while and then I'll unbox it, or I haven't decided what I'm going to do, how I'm going to handle just like the little one-off packages that come in the future. It's still kind of fun to kind of look at those packages. So I don't know. I'm thinking I might just open stuff off camera and then, I don't know, turn it into a regular video. I haven't put the thought into what I'm going to do. So comment down below what you think I should do, and let's get to opening up these 5 packages, and then I'll be done. And what I'm going to do is get rid of this table that this stuff is all sitting on, because this is blocking access to all the Apple Lisa parts that are under here. And I really, really want to get back to working on the Lisa, because I'd like to get that machine fully back together. There was the last video on the main channel on the Lisa, and I had it up and running, although that was very difficult to get there. And I almost am worried when I go to power it up, because it's been several weeks. That was actually before New Year's. That was the end of 2025 when I made that video. I'm worried I'm going to plug it all in and it's just not going to work again. But if it all works, then yeah, I want to get the machine back together, and I need to get this table out of here and all these big boxes and stuff like that. So needless to say, let's get to opening this stuff over there, and I'm going to switch camera views and angles and stuff. I have to say that getting through all the incoming packages has really taken a load off. It was really weighing on me that I just hadn't got to everything. And in fact, when I get through that backlog I just mentioned, all the old footage from a few years ago, I will really feel a lot better, because I just feel guilty when I have stuff that hasn't been shown on the channel, because people have gone through the effort to pack stuff up, send it to me and whatnot, and hasn't actually been shown. Even if it's just for a second on these Turbo Mail Call episodes, still, I want to show that I'm very grateful for people sending all this stuff in. It means so much to me that people take the time and spend the money and donate this stuff to the channel to make or to allow me to make content for all of you. It's absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so I think the first thing I'm going to start with, just, I got to get my laptop open here so I can get to the mail call log, because it wouldn't be possible for me to go back and get all that footage together if it wasn't for the fact that I have this detailed spreadsheet, which we are going to be opening item number 515. So we're going to start with this very big and very heavy package here. Wow, I can't believe how heavy this is. It says here, fragile, do not drop. I will definitely not drop it, and luckily the shipping is or the packaging is in good shape. I just opened it on the floor, and I'm very relieved to find that it does not have packing peanuts in it. Because if it did, it's a big box. and that would make a huge mess. It's a luggable computer, which is why it weighs so much. To think that these were supposed to be portable things back in the day, not so much anymore. Okay, there it is. There's the front. We can see that it's a TeleVideo computer, and inside the box was the keyboard, and luckily it's in good shape. It's dirty, but it's definitely not broken, and that's a relief. I mean, it's a luggable, so it should have survived, right? One thing that appears to be missing potentially are the things that hold the keyboard on the front. So looking at the keyboard, this is a model TPC-I. Keyboard's in good shape, which is excellent. And on the back side, it says TeleVideo with their logo, and there is an RJ11 or some type of a phone type jack. Looks like it's maybe 6 conductors for hooking the keyboard up to the computer. So it didn't come with that cable, but luckily that's not the end of the world since I could just get an off-the-shelf cable to hook that up. And I'm not really set up to show this properly, but there's the front of the machine. So we got dual floppy drives. It's the 9-inch CRT, probably green in color. Let's see, I have a little flashlight here, so we'll be able to tell exactly what color the CRT is. Yep, it's green. And in fact, let's turn off the bench light here, and we can see a little bit if it's got burn in. It looks like it's got burn in there. Hopefully that's coming across in the camera. Everything's reversed. I'm looking in the OBS capture here. Anyways, got a little bit of burn in. It's a green CRT. Luckily, those are not that rare. And of course, you could potentially use something like Mac CRT in here. Although, I wonder if it's actually kind of a yellowy phosphor CRT. It looks green under the black light, but TeleVideo is known for using interesting, different color phosphors. What else is going on? Okay, on the side, we have a carry handle. The case itself is just plastic. It's not metal like it is on, what is it, K-Pros, for instance. There is a sticker on the side. Let's see what that says. It's something from Eugene, Oregon. It says, Lambda Software Publishing, 149 West Hilliard Lane, Eugene, Oregon, 97404. So I know this computer came from friend of the channel, Pat, aka Vax11. And I actually have a letter that goes with this computer, and it wasn't in the box because I think this was drop shipped potentially from Eugene. Actually, it came from Washington. So the box says Washington on it. The computer says Eugene, which is just south of Portland. And Vax11 lives back east. So that's why this thing came to me locally, because it's extremely heavy. So shipping this would have been a very expensive endeavor if it came from even further. Okay, so I'm just trying to show ports. If I turn the camera. So it looks like we have serial parallel, mouse, keyboard, mouse. That's interesting. Dip switches. I think a reset. Oh no, just some of a toggle switch. Could be a voltage switch, power switch, fuse, and IEC mains input. It does say TeleVideo 115/230 volts. A few stickers. There was obviously a cover that would have been on here, would have held the power cord and probably the keyboard cable. That is gone. There are little pegs for the door, but they're not broken. It's just the door is missing. The computer itself, I'm assuming should, oh, there are loose pieces inside. Computer itself should be this color, kind of a light creamy color, but you could just see it's quite yellowed. And I'm just flipping the lid over because, there's like a tilt stand on the bottom. Boy, that doesn't sound good. Loose parts floating around inside. Anyhow, there's a tilt stand on the bottom. It's all a little bit flimsy, the whole thing. It's definitely musty smelling, just the smell of the thing, but it's pretty cool. And yes, without a doubt, the keyboard has like these hooks that hook on there, but the latches that hold it down on the top would have been probably like slidey latches. They're gone. So the keyboard, just looking at the way it works, yeah, it looks like they would protrude through the front. The latch would protrude through the front somehow or something. Just sort of looking at the keyboard itself. Oh no, yeah, okay. So it would have been something that goes through into this slot right there. This part here is what hooks onto the bottom of the case there. I mean, if I were good at designing things in OpenSCAD, for instance, that maybe would be something I could design and 3D print. But I'm not good at stuff like that. Right, so this is an interesting computer. Let's take a look at this letter that I got from Pat. It's a relatively long letter, so I'm just going to kind of skim through a little bit. So it says here, enclosed in the box is a nice example of a TeleVideo Z80-based computer that went on sale in 1984, the TeleVideo TPC-I. It's a variation of their systems that came out with the TS-801 and TS-806 in 1980. And initially they were released as single-user systems with the capability to be used as a network system, one with software that was released in 1981. Now those systems that came out in 81, they had support for serial port that could run at 800 kbaud SDLC, nearly 100 kilobits per second, connected to the back over cables 300 feet long to a central file/print server. And the TS-806, which was one of those systems, and the 816, which is another one of those systems, I guess, could host either 6 or 16 client computers. The remote computers would load their OS, a variant of CP/M 2.2, and were able to access file and shared print queues through the network. The link was faster than a floppy, and even hard drives were able to be accessed at the time. So over this 100K per second serial link, that's wild. Like the PC, when that came out, would have had a 1900 baud serial port, and that was pretty much the max of everything around that time. There was a TeleVideo OS known as MMMOST, MOST, was very slow and clunky, but it's a good starting point that enabled third-party versions that had more features and were faster. One of these was Software 2000's Turbo DOS, which was a very popular version. That is what I've seen on most of them. They're all mostly compatible with CP/M 2.2 and added some more features like file and print sharing, mailboxes to move data around, and other OSs were CBIS, Network OS, Phase OS, Oasis / Theos, and Digital Research's own CP/M/Net. The one killer feature the TeleVideo had was not just file sharing, but record locking. This allowed a central database-like client records to be stored on the file server and accessed from different user stations simultaneously. Because of that, these systems were popular in doctors' offices, lawyers' offices, warehouses, and other small businesses where you needed to have a single database with a handful of employees. The TPC-I, which is this computer here, was sold as a single-user computer with an option slot internally with a knockout on the back to mount interface cards and a DA15 port for the SDLC network link, which I don't think this has, because I think the ports that were labeled on the back there was a printer port and the other one was labeled RS-232. That's not this SDLC. This computer, the TPC-I, had a list price of $1,600, which was quite a bit cheaper than those earlier machines from 80 and 81, and included not just serial terminal, but graphical display that was capable of 640 by 240 monochrome graphics, what TeleVideo deemed as business graphics in their demos that ran on it. The TPC-I has a 4 MHz Z80, 64K or 128K of bank switched memory, a keyboard that's shared with the TPC-II, which is a PC compatible in the same form factor, a mouse, which uses a mouse systems type mouse, but it had a phone type jack, 2 serial ports for a modem and a printer, and an optional slot which could take a card with another Z80 SIO, so that's more serial ports, and the storage was 2 double-sided, double-density 48 TPI floppy drives. So those are those 2 disk drives that are in there, roughly 360 kilobytes per disk. Pat said that IMD on a PC can read and write the floppy disks on this, so you can make bootable disks. And Pat's included a Google Drive link with some pictures and disk images of software you can use on the system. And there's some manuals that Pat linked to on BitSavers. TeleWrite and TeleCalc are 2 TeleVideo provided for charge office packages. There was DBase 2, WordStar, plus a disk with Microsoft Basic programs, Infocom, Suspended, Text Adventure, Multiplan, SuperCalc, Aztec C compiler, and other things. So the kind of the typical stuff that you'd have on CP/M machines. The program TeleDraw uses the graphics modes and can optionally use a mouse, but it can draw basic shapes, text, and then print them to a compatible printer. It works all right, but shows how a slow 4 MHz Z80 can be when doing graphics in software. Just to show these links that I'm talking about here, there are the BitSavers links for some manuals. Looks like Pat has some reverse engineering work done, and there's the URL for that, worldofvax.blogspot.com. In addition, there are YouTube videos of the VCF Midwest presentations that I've given on my work on the TeleVideo system preservation and recreation for the VCF Midwest YouTube channel. And a couple of videos there if anyone wants to check those out. And hopefully this gets you started and it's not too much. Reach out to me if you need any help. And wow, that is so cool. Let's take a look at the Google Drive links that has photos and stuff that was mentioned up in this section. Okay, here's Google Drive link. We have a few photos. So this is the TS-801 that was mentioned. Oh, that's a bit of a beast. So that was the precursor to this machine, right? The multi-user one. Well, I think the 801 was a single user, but then there was the 806 or 806 and 8016 or 816. Sorry, that could do 16 users. Oh, look at the back of that thing. What a chunky thing. And this is the 816. So this is capable of running 16 users. That must be like some kind of a tape drive, I assume, for loading software. Right, so Pat included tons of floppy disks here, IMD images. I can just make those on my PC. And yeah, we got a bunch of boot disks and stuff like that. So that is cool. Let's see if we can look at a picture of the TPC-1 operating. Here's a link on gunkies.org. Opening one is difficult, which is rumored to have been intentional. Reassembly is challenging, but at least someone can see what is happening. There are no pictures on there, but here are some photos. Well, there's the machine when it's not all yellowed. Okay, you can kind of make out those latches for the keyboard that are missing on this one. There's that tilt stand I was talking about. There's the handle, and there's what's on the back. So my presumption is this machine is not well documented on the internet. So if I make a video about it, well, I will make a video about it. It's sitting on the floor here because it's so heavy. Obviously, I touched it and parts fell inside. I'm obviously gonna have to open this thing up, find out what's floating around inside. Hopefully it's, well, to be honest, maybe it's those latches. Oh, that would be awesome if the keyboard latches somehow fell inside and then I can fix them or whatever. But anyhow, it'll be awesome if I get this thing up and running and then we can, well, document it, because it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of this machine out there. Now, it was on the Mean season, 1985. Malcolm has a TPC-1 in his home and uses it to write notes as he receives a call from a murderer. Okay. Oh, there it is. Look at that. As if he's typing on that thing. Sure. You know, Google Chrome, why are you so annoying with this? I got it. It's constantly popping up telling me to do that crap. I have not found a single picture of this actually operating. Actually, Pat mentioned there were a couple videos, and this looks like one from Pat himself showing the machine operating. Oh, it's got some burn in as well. But yes, look at the color of the screen. It's kind of a yellow phosphor. Very cool. That's unusual, and I kind of like that. It's probably prone to burn-in, just like amber. Amber screens are very prone to burn-in, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's just the reality, and I assume this phosphor is as well. So that's obviously using the graphics mode there. Fancy. 640 by 240 pixel resolution. Super mouse interface. There it is. There's your business graphics right there. Boom! You make some charts. You can bring your computer on the road and you can show people, hey, check it out. This computer came out, by the way, what does it say here? 1984, I think. So for graphics in a luggable, pretty fancy, I suppose. Although on the other hand, CGA also had 640 by 200 graphics in monochrome. And on something like a compact portable, kind of like this. Well, there we have it. The TPC-1 coming soon to an Adrian's Digital Basement video near you. Obscure computer, and this one obviously is going to need a little bit of TLC. Pat did not say if he knows if this works or not, so I need to find a keyboard cable, which I'm sure Pat can tell me which keyboard cable to use. And then we need to open this up, see if it's working, and make some discs, and I don't know, check it out. It's just obscure, very obscure, and that is really cool. So thanks very much, Pat, for saying that in. And let me just log this down in on my spreadsheet, and let's move on to the next thing. Okay. Here we go. It's so heavy as well. This comes from Sam in Shelbyville, Indiana. Hi to all my Indiana viewers. Well, there's a bunch of stuff in here, and it's wrapped in this. I thought at first it was just a bunch of this rubber mat. You could like put this under your desk for standing on and whatnot, but I think, no, I think we have a bunch of goodies in here, and this is just the packing material. Okay, well, the first thing I open is a C64, and it's a shortboard version because it has the symbols on the tops of the keys. The ones where the symbols are on the fronts that are in this size case, they typically have a longboard inside, the later longboards. But this is going to be, yeah, this is going to be a shortboard 64. Cool. I'm sort of assuming these aren't going to work. I didn't see a letter right off the bat, but I just was complaining about the fact that I don't have many 64s to repair. So, I mean, I see over there some Ataris to repair. There's a bunch of stuff over there that needs to be repairs. But 64s, not that many. Okay, the next one, I recognize this. I just saw the edge of it and I saw it. Oh, I know exactly what this is. TurboGrafx 16. What's funny about this console is I had one of these before I moved to Portland. So I moved up here in 2012 and I had one of these. This was before I was into retro, right? So someone gave me one of these and I had the expansion module on the back, which plugs into this big connector and gives you all the extra ports, as in like the video in and out and stuff. In fact, without that, there's just like an RF out right there and you have like a power input. But I remember the thing that plugged in the back that gave you all the extra ports. Anyways, this is a game console. It's an 8-bit game console, but it's got 16-bit graphics. I know they call it 16, but I'm quite sure this has an 8-bit processor in it. But the graphics capabilities of this are much more aligned to 16-bit consoles. Kind of like the Commander X16, to be honest. Commander X16 is a good example of that, where you have something that has a 6502, just a standard 6502 processor, and yet its graphics capabilities are so advanced because it has a pretty advanced graphics subsystem. But incidentally, the 6502 and the 65C816, this essentially the processor that's in the Super NES, I mean, yeah, the 65C816 is a 16-bit processor, but not really. I mean, it's really just a 6502 with like some extensions added onto it. It's so compatible with 6502, you could plug one of them into the Commander X16, and I think it pretty much works. It's like a drop-in replacement, if I recall. Anyhow, cool console, and maybe there's a letter in here that will sort of talk about what's going on, but there is so much more stuff in here, everyone. There is a lot. I was telling the story about the TurboGrafx that I had. And unfortunately, well, I mean, I wasn't into retro stuff back then. So when I moved, I was like, what am I going to do with all this old stuff? I had a bunch of other game consoles, like, I don't know, I had a TI-99. I think I had a 2600, Atari 2600. I mean, full of games and lots of cartridges and lots of controllers and stuff like that. And the TurboGrafx as well. I had a bunch of games, a bunch of controllers. I might have had the thing that lets you plug in 4 controllers, because if I recall, you can only plug in 1 with this thing stock. It's like a weird console, it really is. Anyways, I just gave it all away. And that was before I moved. I thought, well, I'm never going to use this stuff again. Little did I know in 2012 when I gave that stuff away. Oh, and I had a VIC-20 as well. I had my original VIC-20, the one I had as a kid. I had that, and I gave that away as well. Little did I know at that point in my life that I would be making videos on YouTube about this old stuff full time. Like, I never thought that was going to be happening. Oh, nice. Okay, so this is an Enhancer 2000, I think this is called, which is an IEC-based disk drive, Commodore 1541 clone. I've had one of these on the channels before, and of course the other one I have, the label came off on that as well. So I don't have the label on either of these. It's a weird disk drive because the thing about this, it's mostly 1541 compatible, but this uses a 65C02 processor, the version that the illegal instructions don't work on. So some fast loaders don't work on here. And I think my other Enhancer, I wanted to call it the Enforcer 2000. The other Enhancer 2000 I have, I put the regular 6502 processor in there, and it makes the compatibility a little bit better. I tried to put Jiffy DOS on it though, and there was an issue. The way the electronics work on the drive, it doesn't seek properly or something when you put Jiffy DOS on it. So that's one of the things about this disk drive that I don't love exactly, is without Jiffy DOS, it kind of sucks. And it doesn't work on it. And I think there was a custom version of Jiffy DOS at some point, but then it's lost, and I don't remember the details at this point. Okay, the next item looks like, oh, I think this is an Atari 2600, the later version. It was like a Junior. Yep, there it is, Atari 2600. So I don't know why I thought it was called the Junior, but this was the cost-reduced later version of this console, fully compatible with the original. Don't remember what year this came out, but I kind of recall it was 99 bucks. So Atari was trying to kind of make some extra cash. And I think even $99, maybe it was $49. It was like too much for, the world had moved on. By the time the NES came out and the Sega Genesis, I mean, this 8-bit game console was from the 70s and just couldn't really keep up or compete anymore. So this looks like a power supply. It might be for the disk drive here because it does not have an internal power supply. No, it does not. So this is probably it. Looks like a big brick. Yeah, 5 volts, 12 volts, and it's got 4-pin DIN, and this has 4-pin DIN. So this is definitely for the floppy drive. All right, and here, a brand new copy of Dragon Wars. It was sold for $5 on sale. IBM promo, cutout promo, but interplay game. Looks like it's for, yeah, the PC, Tandy, VGA, MCGA, EGA graphics. No disc copy protection. Okay, so comes with 5¼ inch discs and 3½ inch discs. I am unfamiliar with this game, but I also wasn't a big person who was into adventure games back in the day. Neat, yeah. Runs on DOS 2.1 to 4.0. So it kind of gives you an idea of the time, but it says it runs in VGA and MCGA. So we know this is from the later 80s if it has both of those modes. Okay, this looks like a bread bin. In fact, it looks like a VIC-20. And it's absolute mint condition VIC-20. I mean, it's a little bit dirty on the back, but wow, zero yellowing. I mean, this, I don't think this thing's been used. I mean, if it was used, it was barely used. Look at the keyboard. It's just dusty, but it's like, this thing, I wonder if this was like someone's disappointment. They bought this or got it for Christmas. You can see that it's the later version, the 5-volt version that has external 5-volt input. Yeah, someone got this and was like, this sucks. Because if they got it late in the life of the VIC-20, they might have been unhappy with it. I can't believe how mint the keyboard is. This looks like it's never been used. Unbelievable. Wow. And look at this. Look at the back here. If a computer's used a lot, you can see that something was plugged in there, I think, because there's a little bit of scratches on there. But, you know, as you kind of go to plug the video connector in or the disk drive connector, you're going to kind of be going around there. And it doesn't look like anything's really plugged in. Incidentally, look at this. See this? You're like, why does that have that little like loop there? Is that a, you know, some kind of a fault? No, it's not a fault. It's basically because the top cover on this thing was designed to accommodate the Commodore 64. And that's the cutout for the RF connector on the 64 motherboard. Isn't that funny? So there are a couple different versions of the case. One type has these ports lower down. So the bottom part is taller and the top part's taller. So you don't have a cutout in the top cover versus this one. Oh, here we go. Let's just look at my ZIF 64. This is the other style case. So these two case parts aren't interchangeable. So you see how these ports are raised up a little bit and they go into the top cover, but notice on this one, it's completely smooth. And that's because Commodore, in the later revisions, I guess they shrunk down this lower part so the motherboard sits a little bit higher, so they kind of reduce the height, and then they also reduce the height of the top part. But this does not have the little cutout there for the RF connection. And yes, I do have a 64 motherboard, you know, in this case. So all you really have to do, the lower half, you do have to kind of Dremel this out so the cartridges fit. Otherwise, it does just fit right in here with like no other issue. Like these parts are exactly the same. But yeah, that's so weird. So obviously this top piece here was made to accommodate the 64, and they just made it in the light plastic color to deal or accommodate the VIC-20. But yeah, look at this thing. I can't believe how mint this is. The disappointment computer. And to all the VIC-20 aficionados out there, don't let me, you know, badmouth this machine. I had one of these. This was my first computer, was one of these. Mine was the older one that had the external AC power supply, so it made a lot of heat. But yeah, I had one of these, and it was great as my first computer. But if this was old stock, they were selling like 83, 84, and you had friends with 64s, you'd be like, no, I do not want. I want a 64 because it's so much better. Wow, mint. It's got some scratches on the bottom, but I bet you that'll clean right out. A little bit of dirt there. Absolutely amazing, Sam. I gotta say too, actually, that I didn't mention it, but this machine also is in really, really good shape. It's a little dirty as well, but it looks really clean. You can tell it's used though. Like it's got the little scratches on the, you know, from when people were plugging in the cables and stuff like that. So this thing was used. Yeah, same over here, but still really very nice shape. 64C cases can obviously yellow, hence the field found 64. That one looks great. Okay, I think that might be it for all of the hardware, because it looks like there's a bunch of software in here and books, because we have the Diablo 2 expansion set, Lord of Destruction, the ultimate strategy guide for Diablo 2. And is this a copy of Diablo as well? There it is, Diablo 2. I was into Diablo. I don't remember if I played 2, but I definitely played 1 quite a bit. And what's this? StarCraft. Oh yeah, another Blizzard game. Windows 95 NT and Power Mac CD-ROM. Oh, I stand corrected. There's a little bit more hardware. This is one of those. This is for the VIC-20. You plug this into the cartridge connector, and it allows you to have multiple cartridges plugged in simultaneously. And you might wonder, like, well, how do you do that exactly? Well, you can use these toggle switches to enable and disable the select lines that go to the extra cartridges, but sometimes you actually want to have multiple cartridges enabled at the same time. Looks like we have a couple traces that have been cut right there. Let me zoom in a little bit. Yep, a little cut trace action. Assume some bodge wires. Oh yes, okay, there we go. Oh, so those switches have been added after the fact. The electrical tape is classy. So I suppose the way this was designed originally is all the cartridges were active simultaneously, and someone's like, no, I'm going to add these like select lines. So yeah, cut that. And anyhow, what you could do is you could access multiple cartridges simultaneously, because sometimes like a game cartridge and a RAM cartridge wouldn't occupy the same memory space. So you might need to use both simultaneously if you want extended RAM plus like a monitor cartridge or a programmer's aid cartridge, for instance. So this little thing was modified by someone, and look, there's a little pictogram to tell us which switch does what. So I assume it's these cartridges, and there's an expansion connector with tape on it for adding power. And we can see Quantum Data Incorporated somewhere, probably Costa Mesa, California, 714 area code. Anyone know Quantum Data Incorporated? Okay, we have a little bit more hardware as well. We have a VIC modem. Yeah, these are kind of useless at this point. I think this is 300 bits per second or 300 baud. And not auto dial, if I recall. I can't really remember. Yeah, answer and originate. So not auto dial, or I don't really know how these work, but unfortunately, nowadays these are not particularly useful. I'm pretty sure this is not auto dial. So you would dial with another telephone with a splitter, I suppose, and then do something on the computer, and then this LED would come on to make the connection. There are also a few of these 15-minute tapes. Personal computer cassette tape. High resolution. That's so hilarious, high resolution. These are just normal audio tapes. They're just 15-minute variants. If I grab a regular tape box, you know, it's exactly the same size. So yeah, that was just them. You know, these were useful if you needed just to store a short program, but I don't know if these were cheaper. Did they cost more? Does anyone remember if these were less expensive than, say, a 60-minute tape or a 90-minute tape? Because you could store a lot more programs on there. I mean, you might even use, if this was the same price as a longer tape, you'd only use the beginning and you wouldn't use any other part of it. But it's cool, these are brand new, unused. Okay, we got some more books and things. So Total Annihilation. I wasn't playing this game. It looks like a mech game. Either that or like some kind of a war simulator. Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. I was never into Warcraft. I played Diablo, like I said, but yeah, Warcraft and StarCraft, not those. Another Diablo thing. There's Diablo 1. Looks like the manual for the game itself. Official strategy guide for Warcraft 2. You know, one day I kind of feel like I should play Diablo again, because I remember really enjoying Diablo. And it seemed like Sam was very much into it, hence all the books and StarCraft and Warcraft, because we have all this stuff here. Official strategy guide as well. Warcraft 2, that looks like the manual. Heretic strategy guide. I played a lot of Heretic. Heretic was built on the Doom engine, if I recall. Kind of an iteration with a lot more capabilities. Another strategy guide for Diablo. There's one more box in the box, but at the bottom I thought this was a note. I don't know what that is. Nothing on the back, but the Commodore VIC-20 price list. Nice. The friendly computer. Well, where's the price? Is it on the back? There are no prices here. Oh, here. No. Wait. How freaking rude. Why would you call it a price list? Am I missing that there's no prices written on here? That's hilarious. And that's it on the bottom here. On the back, it just has the shipping sizes and weights. 42 pounds, VIC-20 quantity 4. It's just like something for a business, I guess. Must have been for a business, because no normal person would have 42 pounds of VIC-20s, that's for sure. Now, there's also a warranty card, probably for the VIC-20, I suppose. 90 days, that's all you got when you bought one of these back in the day. If you filled out your warranty card, they'd send you a magazine, Commodore's Power Play magazine. Did you or your family own a video game machine? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, what type? Atari, Intellivision, Odyssey, or other? And there's Commodore's old address, Westchester, Pennsylvania. Gone, long gone. Okay, in the bottom of the box was another box. Let's see what's in here. What's this? I think this is just packing material. It's like a large tote bag. Okay. Yep, there's some software here. Ooh, yeah, console software. Now, this is pretty cool. This is all for a console that I actually have. So for the Sega Genesis, aka Mega Drive, wow, it's a lot of glare. It's hard for me to record this. Subterranea. Don't know a lot of Mega Drive games. I do have a Mega Drive console. Good for one player. All right, we also have Maximum Carnage from Acclaim. The classic Genesis Golden Axe 2. Okay, maybe not so classic as it's the second one. The first one was quite a classic game. I guess I should look to see if these are in here. Yeah, that's there. Maximum Carnage and Subterranea is there as well with all of its original stuff. All right, we have Death Duel, a whole new meaning to disarm your enemy. Lotus Challenge, Dungeons and Dragons. You know, I was just watching the last season of Stranger Things. Of course, they were playing D&D at the end of that. D&D lives on your Genesis. Sure. Unfortunately, that show, which honestly, the first season was some of the best TV I've ever seen. The rest of the seasons were okay, but certainly nothing like the first season when it came to the writing and how good it was. A 32X game, motocross. I don't have a 32X. I only have a regular Genesis, the very early first generation one, I think. Local friend of the channel gave it to me recently. Urban Strike, sequel to Jungle Strike. Got a Namco game here. Quad Challenge. And Twin Cobra, Desert Attack Helicopter. 16-bit cartridge. Right, so that's everything that Sam sent. Thank you very much, Sam, for all this stuff. There was no note in the box, so there's nothing for me to read, but quite an interesting assortment. Obviously, the Commodore VIC-20 and the 64C and this floppy drive, that'll be interesting for testing. I don't have any way to test the TurboGrafx 16. The Atari 2600, on the other hand, I do have Atari cartridges. So this stuff will be for a future video where I'll probably test this stuff off camera to see what's broken and what works. And if it works, then awesome. If it doesn't work, then it'll be future repair videos. And as for this software and stuff, if any of these games are awesome and people love any of this stuff, please definitely let me know, because I know very little about the Genesis. I had an Amiga at the time the Genesis was out, and I played everything on my Amiga. I wasn't really a console gamer, not until I got my PlayStation. So I had an NES, and then I took a break from consoles, and I just exclusively played on the computers, like PC and Amiga. And then I did get a PlayStation, and that was my first, foray back into the console world. And then from there, I had a PlayStation 2, I had a Dreamcast, I had an Xbox 360. I still have an Xbox 360. I had an Xbox One, I had a PlayStation 3. I sold both of those because I just kind of decided that, well, Xbox 360 was my favorite console of that generation or whatever time period. And after that, when I had the Xbox One, I was like, I just don't see the point anymore. The games feel barely better, and I'd rather just play on my PC. And I have a PC downstairs here in the other room there, hooked up to a big TV. So if I want to couch play, I have like a, I don't know, GTX 1060 or something in there. It's nothing great, but it's good enough for me to play the casual games that I care from the couch. And I could play them off Steam, and I have a ton of Steam games. So I just was like, why? I'm not going to buy consoles anymore. I'm not going to play the game where you have to keep upgrading. And I know there's backwards compatibility, but I was just like, nah, I'm done. I'm just going to do PC gaming. Anyways, I'm busy with all this old junk because I really do like the old stuff anyways. I really love playing NES games to this day. I really do. And there's games I never played and I'm like rediscovering. Are we still recording? Yep, it looks like we are. Okay, I'm going to go for this little package. Oh, look, that gives away what it is. So this is a new BlueSCSI device. Some new BlueSCSI devices have recently been released. One of them being SCSI 2 ultra wide, so 16-bit SCSI versus 8-bit. I think this is not one of those. I think what this is a new, faster BlueSCSI that's only 8 bits wide, because I don't really have stuff that's new enough to need 16-bit wide SCSI. And I think this is a new, super fast version. And it promises to be much, much faster than the regular BlueSCSI. So it's still 8 bits wide, hence the normal SCSI connector. Interesting, this has an extra Wi-Fi module. Okay, so SD card slot and the expander. And what's this little thing do? There's a manual here. Oh, this has a hack. This this gives you audio out for CD-ROM emulation. What? USB Type-C, there's the SD card slot. Looks like we have initiator mode, USB initiator, termination enabled, disabled. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, if we lift this off, oh, this is connected with two things there, but I'm pretty sure that's got the new RP2350 chip under there. So that's how it is so fast. It's got the connector here that goes to your sound card, or, you know, whatever, if you're using a Mac that has like a connector or header for that. This must connect here. Yes, I don't know which way it's going to go on, but I assume it goes like so. That is so freaking cool. All right, let's check out the note. We wanted to send you an EVT of the new BlueSCSI Ultra. It's narrow 8-bit SCSI for your Plexus. Oh, that's right. This was going to be for the P20, and specifically this version. Yes, okay. So I got the V2, the older BlueSCSI, working with a bodge, but with all the extra GPIO lines on the RP2350, we're able to fix that issue. The Ultra line also has a 16-bit wide version, that's what I just mentioned, with 68-pin and SCA connectors, though wide SCSI is way too modern for my channel. Yes, that's right. Besides wide, there's a ton of new stuff in the Ultra hardware line. Check out the announcement here, bluescsi.com/ultra, and reach out to myself or Eric if you have any questions. See you at VCF Midwest 2026. Androda and Eric, by the time you open this, the firmware will be out of date, so please update the latest version before testing. You know, this is so funny. This is that note. I'm just digging in the stuff here that I just opened previously, but that's just like this, which is the Pico IDE. So this is an IDE sort of version of this that supports CD-ROM emulation with the audio out, and this does it with IDE, or sorry, this does an IDE version, and this is from Ian, and this also has outdated firmware. This is not out yet. This will be coming out soon. It's still in the testing phase. I really need to test it, which is why I have it sitting off to the side. But this, I'm pretty sure, is out. But yeah, wireless SD card audio, like what a cool thing. Okay, let's take a look at this this announcement here. All right, so pre-order. Oh, so maybe these aren't quite out yet either, but you can pre-order them. And yeah, what's new? Okay, starting the year with a bang, we have the Ultra and the Ultra Wide. These new models support faster Ultra SCSI connections for better support modern high-end workstations. These are more than iterative updates and continue our 100% original hardware design as well as GPL firmware. Hell yeah. So there's the ultra wide, there's that high density connector, and this is the normal 8-bit version. Nice. All right, so next generation open source SCSI emulators designed for higher workstations, faster SD card performance, audio capabilities, expanded hardware features while preserving BlueSCSI simplicity and ease of use. Ultra SCSI 50 narrow SCSI. So both models, you run the 2350, they have USB-C, 16 megs of flash, I2C, CD audio. So that's how that little board here, it goes over I2C and it's able to decode the audio. It's like super high quality. It's very similar to the audio capabilities of the Pico Mem and the Pico Gus as well. They work in a very similar way. Web-based configuration via front panel integration, so you can connect a front panel if you want like display and stuff like that, much like the Pico IDE here from Ian. Enhanced power protection, significantly faster SD transfers by dynamic voltage switching. Wow, fancy. These are not incremental updates, but a major evolution of BlueSCSI original hardware platform and continuing the GPL firmware tradition and commitment to open, user-friendly design. So I was talking to Eric about this particular card, and Eric mentioned how much faster it is, even over regular 8-bit SCSI. It's a significant improvement. I think a lot of that comes from the fact that the SD card interface is much faster on this than it was on the older BlueSCSIs. Then there we go. Yeah, partner with Ian Scott of the Pico Gus to, you know, have the display and stuff work probably in a very similar way to this. And Pico IDE right here. So same case. Oh, it's going to be the same case. Very cool. So this already has the audio stuff all built in on the board. While this is an expansion module, but maybe there'll be a version of this in the future that actually has the audio built in as well. And it looks like the existing BlueSCSIs will also support the new case plus front panel display over I2C. Very cool. And look at this. There's a section here on talking about how the transfer speeds were so much faster. It looks like the public spec for SD is only 25 megs a second, and not good enough for wide SCSI. So I guess some kind of vendor described some voltage switching technique that now allows us to run at 83 megahertz, or that obviously is cut in half, right? Because it was 50 to 25. So that is over 40 megabytes a second now. Wow. So that eliminates the bottleneck of the SD card just giving so much faster support. And then there's the audio support for CD-ROM audio, standard PC-CD-ROM audio header. Ah, that's just, what a freaking cool thing. Okay, so here's the comparison to the original version 2, which does support audio. I don't think I even knew that. I guess one takeaway from the new versions is due to the more complex requirements, you can't power them from the bus anymore, unlike the V2 version. That was a really very nice feature, especially for the external one. Joe from Joe's Computer Museum sent this over to me. This is the little external one that has version 2, that is, that it's powered directly by the connector. I love using this thing. And there I now know what EVT is, Engineering Validation Test Boards. Okay. Anyways, yeah, anyways, there's 2 versions of the wide version. One that supports that SCA connector, which costs a lot more than just the regular wide connector, where I think it's like a plastic connector, so that costs a little extra. So EVT boards I've sent out for review. Unfortunately, in this video, I'm not going to be doing a review, but this is going to go into the queue for reviewing. Not to mention I need to work on the Plexus, so it would be perfect to get this working in there, because this thing will apparently work directly with that thing with its weird, quirky SCSI implementation. So this is going to live in that computer. That way I can demo this computer up at VCF in Seattle coming up in May. So I need to get busy and get working on that computer, and that's why I have this. So I need to kind of play around with this, update the firmware, obviously. And yeah, that'll be super cool. And the fact is, it's got this wireless module on here, which I don't think was actually mentioned on the webpage. Did I like blow a secret that this has the wireless module on there? Or is that actually on here? No, I don't really see it on here. Okay, well, anyways, there's a wireless module. I think this allows this web interface thing that was mentioned in there. So basically, you can connect to this when the computer's booted up and swap images without having to kind of take the SD card out, shut the whole system down, all that kind of stuff. So what a freaking cool project. What a cool project. So I'll link to the webpage for the Ultra along with the Pico IDE in the description if you want to check out both of those, because the community is just so kick-ass right now working on these hardware or software-defined hardware devices for SCSI, for IDE emulators, for the Gravis ultrasound sound cards. Just what a time. What a freaking time. I love it. We're getting down to the last 2 packages, that one and this one. This comes from Jeffrey, who also sent in, let me grab it, it's just down on the floor here, who also sent in the cursed Apple II disk drive that's full of mud and dirt. So that will be for a future video. That disk drive I opened up in Turbo Mail Call episode 1. Oh, and incidentally, Jeffrey lives in Michigan. So hi to all my Michigan viewers. So this says S100 kit on here. So Jeffrey is huge in the S100 community, and I have a feeling this package might have something to do with all that other S100 stuff, which I'll hold up the bag here. This has those cards and things that were sent in by, let's see who sent that in. Those were sent in the S100 backplane, Corvus floppy, and SAI RAM card by Guillaume in Pittsburgh. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of related. Oh, we have a note here which I cut into with a knife. Let's read the note first, because it's probably going to tell me something. Hi, Adrian. I was very sorry to hear that your 3D printed drive cage from the PDP Online, MFM emulator, and GoTech got damaged in shipment. Yeah, that's right. It's there was a drive adapter for, well, anyways, Jeffrey sent in an adapter. It was 3D printed, got a little crushed. I'm taking the opportunity to replace your damaged drive cage and supply you with your new S100 power supply starter kit. And since my last package, I was able to secure the main power switch and LED indicators for the drive cage, now included as well, as something a little extra. The included power supply, which is called the ATX DC to DC power supply, supplies all the S100 bus voltages, including +8 at 25 amps, +16 at 4 amps, and -16 at 0.5 amps, with additional supplies for 8-inch floppies, so that's +24, +5, and -5. All you need is a standard 550 watt or higher PC power supply. When you do get to working on your S100 motherboard and S100 computer bring up, this setup will give you all the voltages you need, including adding an 8-inch drive, if you want to hear that wonderful head load ka-chunk. Luckily, I have several 8-inch disk drives. So I will be able to get one of those working if I ever get all this stuff working together. Here's a URL for the ATX DC to DC kit. So github.com, S100 projects, that's gotta be Jeffrey's GitHub repo. Lastly, if you ever need any help on S100 setups, feel free to contact me or perhaps join the S100 Computer Club forum. And there is the URL for that. We have bi-weekly Zooms and a pretty large group of individuals, all combined centuries of S100 experience and tons of S100 documentation at s100computers.com with manuals for most S100 boards you can find under S100 boards, and a host of new boards to keep the systems alive. If you ever want to have a more turnkey chassis solution, check out the S100 ATX motherboard with a standard PC power supply connector. I have seen Jeffrey's setup at VCF, and it is awesome. Yeah, it's basically all you need to get up and working. And as always, wishing you the best in your future projects. Cheers, Jeff. I'm pretty sure I have a picture of me and Jeff from the last VCF, like hanging out in the lounge at the hotel, the VCF Midwest, that is. And Jeff kept coming out with a big bottle of scotch and like very fancy, expensive stuff and pouring it to me. And I was already 3 sheets to the wind, let's just say. All right, well, it looks like we have, this is a t-shirt. Oh, heck yeah. S100 projects. All your projects for the 21st century. Very cool. This is that 3D printed part. Let me grab the one that got damaged. Here it is. This is what Jeff sent in last time. So this was this kit to hold a GoTech and a floppy emulator and a hard drive emulator. And yeah, unfortunately, it was a very nice 3D print, but it got a bit crunched from that disk drive. That floppy drive just sort of smashed that thing. This looks like the replacement unit, super well packed, so we weren't gonna have any mishaps this time. Now, while I unwrap this, what Jeff was talking about with the power supply is in mail call, or Turbo Mail Call episode 2, it looks like. Yeah, Guillaume sent in that S100 backplane kit. So this was a motherboard that basically you plug S100 cards into, and it came with, it's in this bag down here, came with some, you know, the S100 connectors, but without the power supply, with those weird voltages, like the 8 volts and the 16 volts, you can't properly power up any S100 components. All the S100 boards, at least the original ones, had voltage regulation happening on the board. So you didn't have 5 volts over the bus connector. I mean, you did for the signaling, but not for the power. And it was unusual because one of the boards that I got, it was actually modified so it did run on 5 volts right off the bus connector. So if you plug that into a normal S100 bus machine, it would immediately damage it. I think it was that SAI RAM card. That was the one that was weirdly modified, so it just ran off 5 volts directly. I'm really struggling to open this because I don't want to cut into it and damage anything. There it is. I extracted it. No damage. It looks perfect. It looks absolutely perfect. Just extracting it from this packing material was, shall we say, difficult. And here are some switches. I think these are for the front. So these 2 square switches, for instance, looks like these push button types with the little red window. And then there's also a toggle switch, which I guess probably goes right there. It's the push in type. This appears to be a power cable for 8-inch floppy drives, but this also might be for the power supply kit. I thought it was going to be a kit that I had to assemble, but this is all perfectly fully assembled. So this just has all the DC to DC converters on it that take your ATX power supply and then output all of these extra voltages. So there are these voltages. This would be for the 24 volts that goes to the 8-inch floppy drive. It uses those types of connectors, so it supports up to 2 of those. And obviously this is for the 8-pin 12-volt connectors for additional current draw. And here's the kit. This is the S100 backplane kit. So this is what would be connected to this power supply. So I had to like build up a little wooden structure to hold the power supply, for instance, and this onto it. And there's our connections, plus 16 volts, minus 16 volts, plus 8, plus ground. So excellent direct connection right to this little board. This has 2 outputs for 8 volts for extra current capacity, but this only has a single connection. I need to buy one of those screw terminal connections that go on here. What I do have are some of the 100-pin connectors. These are for the cards themselves. But this power supply will certainly make it much easier for me to come up with a solution for getting this stuff built up. And how exciting will that be? I haven't done any kind of work to figure out like what's what, but thanks to Jeff's recommendation of going to the forum on here and talking to all the folks who do know a lot about this, they'll be able to help me figure out exactly what's what. Because there was a couple questions like on one of the boards. Yeah, I think it was this one right here. It looks like it's an S100 bus computer, but I tried to do some searching and I really wasn't able to find any info on this. And the only thing I was sort of getting some leads on was that this was a serial card and it uses a Z80 CPU because it has a buffer, like it's a buffered serial card. I don't know if that's real or not, but if that's the case, then this is not a CPU you can actually run code on. And how disappointing would that be? But I know, as Jeff alluded to in the letter, there are modern replica PCBs you can buy, kits to build up like a single board computer. So it would be a S100 bus type processor card with RAM and ROM on there. That way you don't have to worry about like sourcing one of these old cards that may or may not work and would be tricky to get working and whatnot. And that would probably just make it a whole lot easier. But on the other hand, trying to get something like this working, I mean, that would certainly be, that would be interesting. But without schematics, you know, having to reverse engineer this would be quite a lot of work. But it would be cool if this is just a serial card, still to figure out if this can run, has a spot for ROM, right? So if we could figure out how to run code on this thing and actually have this be the CPU card, I mean, that'd be really fun. So this power supply, thank you, Jeff, for this. This is definitely a great start. And yep, thank you for this as well, the replacement. I will make sure to keep it in a safe spot. And I'll have to build that up. And yeah, there's just so much to do, and so little time. Oh, and there's this little adapter here as well. This is also labeled S100 projects. So I need to make sure I keep this with everything. What is this exactly? What does this little thing do? And where does this plug in? Right, would you believe it? We're on our last package. And as you can see, this one says Australia on the side and it actually comes from Australia. But this is from way back in the day before we had tariffs and, you know, the difficulties we have now getting packages. I'm just grabbing a knife here. This comes from Simon in the Southwest. I can't quite make it out, but New South Wales in Australia. Hi to all my Australian viewers. This package is unfortunately a 2023 package. So I think I said in the last video I wasn't going to have any more that were that old. Unfortunately, this is that old, but it's the last one. And hopefully, well, you know, there are no other packages around other than the stuff that I have footage for that I talked about at the beginning of the video. But it did make it here after all this time. And let's see what this is. I think this is something that is really, really cool and also very, very obscure when it comes to North America. Like there are maybe none of these in North America. We have a note, we'll look at that in a second. There's some packing material with a really cute drawing on it. Unfortunately, it's kind of rubbed away because I think it's just the way this thing's been sitting on its side for so long. But it looks like there's a CD in here. It says, "You will like this" on it. Okay. All right, so this is the item and it's double wrapped. So I'm just gonna spend a moment to get everything unwrapped and then we'll take a look at the letter. Okay, there it is. Wow, and it made it, Simon. Everything looks perfect. There's a little bit of styrofoam foam on things, but that's nothing that shouldn't clean up. I think the only thing that maybe was, oh, the power switch. I thought the power switch was broken on the back, but even that looks fine as well. Okay, well, as you can tell, this is a really old and obscure computer. And I don't even remember the specifics, so that's why the letter is going to be important. There's the Australian plug. It's similar to the US plug, except the live and the neutral are slanted, which is actually kind of good. That means the plug doesn't come out of the wall as easily. All right, so our letter reads, "Hello, Adrian. This is the Super 80, and I hope it gets you one piece. This package was a fun challenge and left my workshop covered in white foam particles, which my daughter was playing with like snow." Must have been your daughter who drew this, right? That is so cute. We never get snow here. It's usually warm and sunny. Of course, New South Wales, nice weather in all of Australia. And is there any snow anywhere in Australia? Maybe Tasmania, like gets some a little bit, but I know you can go to New Zealand. It's not far away and lots of snow there, right? I found this Super 80 on the e-waste pile at my local dump one day. And I had no idea what it was when I saw it, but being a big fan of your channel, I knew it was something that might be just the challenge that you and your audience would love to see. I've never heard of a Super 80 before, and I hadn't either, right, when Simon reached out to me, but I'm pretty sure there's like a Dick Smith computer, and anyways, we'll look into that in a second. But after a little Google, I knew this was a very rare and special piece of CPU history that needed very careful and skillful attention. I've not powered it on or attempted to do anything besides wipe a thick layer of dust off of it, and I took the cover off just to identify it. So it's as I found it, and I hope you enjoy this little treasure. From your Australian brothers, Simon. Thank you, Simon, and thank you, Simon's daughter, for the very cute, cute little drawing. Absolutely adorable. Look at this thing. Wow. Okay, so we got a chopped off ribbon cable that kind of comes out of the back, and the whole thing's really dirty. Definitely have a little bit of rust on the fasteners. This thing's got a green and a red LED. Keyboard works, but it's obviously this thing was really dirty, I assume, when Simon found it. So it's scratchy, so to speak, but very typical, well, you know, for that time period. I don't know what year this is from. We'll have to look it up. There's that Australian plug I mentioned. So, yep, typical, but you can tell it's old because I think the new one's part of the connector is sheathed. So the only metallic part is over here. That way, if it's partially pulled out of the socket and something falls down, like a metal piece, you don't get 240 volts across it. Wiping off some of the snow that's all over me now. So on the back of the machine, we have, let me get this propped up because it's quite heavy. It's metal, the case. So there's a power switch here that looks like it broke, but this is a very standard power switch, so I can replace that, no problem. And a fuse holder, power cord for the mains. Over on this side, we've got a DIN. I assume it's a 5-pin DIN, so maybe, I don't know, serial port or something like that. Momentary switch, reset, I suppose, and it looks like some kind of a single pin coaxial output, so maybe a video connector, because I'm pretty sure this thing has video out capabilities. There were some feet at some point, little rubber feet, but they have come off. We got some screws on the side. Maybe that's a, I don't know what that is. I doubt this thing has a switch mode power supply in it, but it might actually have one, so who knows. And maybe this was a connection for like a tape drive or something. Wow, just looking at this computer, it just looks like it's homemade. I mean, oh, there was like a speaker grill on the side here. Look at this. So obviously this has some kind of sound built in, or a cooling fan. Could be either one of those, actually. If it's a cooling fan, that's not a lot of holes. Let's look up this Super 80. So I said earlier this was a Dick Smith computer, and I don't know 100% what Dick Smith is or was. I don't know if it's still around, but I'm pretty sure Dick Smith was like a big electronics store that sold all sorts of electronics, but also computers. And in fact, I think, well, TRS-80 computers were sold in Australia, like the Model 1 and the Model 3, and I don't think they were sold at Dick Smith stores. I think Tandy, which was the name of Radio Shack in Australia, operated under Tandy name, and they sold those computers. But I swear that Dick Smith had a clone, or they sold a bunch of clone computers, and one of them was a clone of the TRS-80. But this machine, I think, was one of their own computers. Oh yeah, it was developed by Electronics Australia, so this was a magazine, and that's the computer. And yep, that's the keyboard, and I guess it's a kit. So you see, wow, there was no holes on the side for the speaker, which this machine that I have here has. There's the transformer. Hopefully the power supply uses some kind of a normal-ish voltage so I can replace the power supply. But this was a kit computer, it says it was a kit, so this was probably hand-built and it was cheaper. Oh, so the keyboard is actually on the same PCB as the rest. Now it's got a S100 looking connector on the back. I don't know if it's actually S100 bus. The super character generator board for the Super 80. I think this machine has video out. Like, I don't know what the deal is with this kit here, because like nothing's plugged into the back where this has ports and the reset button and stuff. You can see the reset button. It looks like it's hanging out there. Came out in 1981, 44 years ago. Introductory price, short form kit, whatever that means, $289 Australian. Only 2,000 sold. I mean, that's their guess. 2 megahertz Z80, 16K of RAM with 48K max. So similar to the TRS-80 Model 1 and 3. That's what they could do. 2K of ROM. It used cassettes for storage and did have monochrome display, 32 characters by 16, uppercase only. So the purchaser received the PCB, an assembly manual, a copy of the construction articles from the magazine, basic components, including the RAM and the ROM, and a machine code monitor program. Technical manual and power transformers were sold separately, as were a kit of all the ICs, the basic interpreter, and from mid-1982 on, a metal case to house the computer, which is what this is. The computer proved to be a popular project, with advertisement in 1982 claiming over 2,000 sold. Okay, so that's where that number comes from. The popularity of Super 80 led to a small industry around fixing the shortcomings of the machine, especially the black and white 32 by 16 character uppercase only video display. Original name of the computer was the Nova 80, but it was changed last minute to avoid possible legal ramifications. Expansion, S100 bus slot, optional, but that doesn't mean it's using the same signaling. It's just the same. I mean, maybe it is, I don't know, but I doubt it. So it looks like it uses 416 RAM, so I can expand this to 48K because I got plenty of those chips. The PCB was shipped in a cardboard sleeve that appeared to be a record sleeve having the words Dick Smith Super 80 My Computer printed on it. How cool is that? To keep the price of the computer low, the video display was using TTL logic, so very much like the Apple II, and it shared 512 bytes of system RAM. The CPU was turned off for 10 milliseconds while the video was refreshing 50 times a second, which resulted in a 50% degradation in performance, and it was not possible to perform any accurate timing in software. Wow, that's pretty funny. You could switch off the video display for faster speed, a 50% improvement. You could have the keyboard be external by cutting the keyboard section off and using a ribbon cable. And it uses a Z80 PIO chip for the keyboard input because it's just 8x8 matrix. And Control-C and 4 performed an interrupt, which is the warm start. This is such a cool computer. It's so obscure. So there was an EL graphics kit that added the ability to display lowercase characters and chunky graphics. This probably used the same character generator. Oh, actually, it looks like it uses an EEPROM because that's the picture of it. Well, I don't know if that's the same board, but it probably used a similar character set to what's in the TRS-80 Model 1, Model 3. The printer interface was an S100 bus card. Is this the right height? I don't know if this is even, like, I don't think an S100 card will fit in this computer. I think it'd have to be like a low profile card. There's a VDU expansion board that gives the computer 80 by 25 display using a 6845. Very interesting, with its own 2K of video memory. Folks made a floppy interface, so that's cool, and memory expansion board. And then there's an XRAM board with battery backed up CMOS RAM or ROM chips. That is so cool. Okay, so the Dick Smith System 80, that was the Model 1 clone that I was thinking of. Right, so not this computer, totally different. Oh, and I see this was actually not made by Dick Smith or anything like that. This was just sold by them. It was made by a Hong Kong-based company. Clone of the Model 1, consider a clone, although there are differences. Huh. Anyway, I know I don't normally do this, but I really want to take a look inside this Super 80 machine, just because we need to kind of know what's going on with these like extra cables and stuff. So let me get the cover off. Looks like you just take the perimeter screws off and we can take a look inside. Okay, that's a lot of fasteners for the top cover, and a lot of them are very rusty. So I'm gonna need to definitely soak some of these in vinegar to kind of clean these up, paint them after the fact. So I want to keep the original kit fasteners that this thing came with. Okay, I think the fasteners are all removed. Now there are a couple lights on the front that are obviously connected, so I have to be careful removing those. There it is. Wow. Okay, so we have mods happening in here. This little board, obviously. Wow, look at this. So definitely it's a Super 80. It's got an RF modulator installed. This is, there's mods. I love the mods. Look at this. There's a board, there's ribbons, lots of ROM, fully populated with RAM. So we got 48K on this. These two lights that are on the front, these two wires here, they're going to, well, one goes to, by the way, there is a speaker on the case. It goes right onto this voltage regulator. So I guess it's to like a power LED. It's a 5-volt regulator, the one that's right there. The speaker appears to go to this add-on board. So this is like a sound board for this thing. Okay, yeah, and this is obviously the composite video jack. That was that coaxial connection. The reset switch is damaged and ripped off. My assumption is it's this. So that's no problem. I can replace that. This add-on board, it's obviously, it's connected underneath the board. I don't see any connections on the top, but there's a ribbon cable and it goes away. So it's obviously connected. So this thing will need a ton of documentation, an absolute ton of documentation. Luckily, the power supply on here, we have 2 5-volt regulators, and I don't know what this one is. That's an adjustable one depending on the components. So, oh, well, you know what? This RAM needs, what, 5 volts, 12 volts, and minus 5 volts, I think. So that's probably what we have going on here. Luckily, we can replace the power supply because I don't have, well, I have to use a step-up transformer to then power this one. So I probably, there's lots to do, lots and lots to do. This is so awesome, though. This thing is freaking cool. And the condition inside the computer is quite good. There's really no signs of any corrosion or any issues like that, which is great. I mean, there's a bit of gunk on the keyboard, but I don't think that's anything that's, you know, too far gone. Okay, there's a bit of rust on the keyboard, but that should clean up without too much issue. Okay, actually, I see a little bit of rust on the bottom of the case as well, but this thing was clearly unloved. It was like dropped at e-waste. This rare, rare thing was dropped at e-waste. What an absolute shame. As for the ribbon cable, which I'm just going to leave inside the computer, it appears to go right there. So it's connected to this add-on board, which is also where the speaker is connected. Or not. Oh, I don't know. Actually, the speaker could be connected underneath. It's hard to tell. Oh, this might be the speaker connection actually right there. So yeah, mods, mega mods. And this was something, and it looks like this is plugged right into a latch. So this was for connecting some external peripheral. So we'll just leave that in there so it doesn't get yanked on. Yeah, and it's kind of hard to see, but the power switch and stuff that's over here, it's all just regular parts. So it would be easy to replace those, just to fix those because they're broken. But there it is. A Dick Smith Super 80 from Electronics or Australian Electronics magazine. What a rare and incredible find. And I can't believe that Simon found this at e-waste and then picked it up, had the wherewithal to pick it up, and then was gracious enough to pack this up and send it all the way across the world here to Portland, Oregon for me to take a look at and make videos about. Wow. Before I misplace these fasteners, because I'm not going to reattach them, I'm just going to put them in this little glass jar. I'll keep this inside the computer so that when I get to the machine, I can treat these for a little bit of rust that's on them and clean this thing up and make it look as good as new again. I don't know if I can make it as good as new, but it will look a lot better than it does now. It's definitely kind of grimy, but this case is in good shape. I think it should clean up pretty well. And with that, that is it for Turbo Mail Call, for now, at least. Those are all the packages that I've had built up. There were 5. It took me a long time in this video, but these were some big items that I opened. And there's a lot of content here for future videos. So definitely comment down below, you know, if you've watched all 4 of these videos, what would you like me to work on next? And if, you know, it's anything from this video, but, you know, we have the AGFA, CompuGraphic, the Amiga, there is so much stuff to take a look at here that people have sent in, some really cool stuff. And as I said, I'm really humbled that people are so generous to send this stuff in, absolutely generous. I think that shipping this, Simon shipped this computer, it was heavy, and the packing, it was very expensive to send it from Australia. So really, really, thank you very much. And sorry it took me so long to open this and all these other things as well. I think this TeleVideo computer has also been here for a couple years. I think since 2024, 2025 maybe. Anyhow, I'm glad to finally have all this stuff done. And now I get to start making videos about all this freaking cool stuff. Anyways, okay, it's late. I'm going to go to bed. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you to everyone who sent stuff in. Thumbs up if you liked this video. Thumbs down if you didn't. Huge thanks to my supporters. They make possible this full time. And you know, all that kind of stuff. And I guess that's going to be that. So stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.